Welcome to Metatripping.
Peace, y'all. All right. So a lot of this has been pre-channeled, what I'm about to transmit, but there will be some live cards that are pulled for this particular reading. What I decided to do, communing with spirit, it just seemed like the wisest, just to kind of maximize the moment right now, the available moments. The full moon in Gemini is going to be covered. The coming Saturn in Aquarius, the significance of the coming Saturn in Aquarius, temporary shift of Saturn going into Aquarius and then coming back into Capricorn, because in the spring of 2020, Saturn is going to shift out of Capricorn for a while. And then, when exactly is it? Don't quote me at the moment. I don't know if it might be fall. For some reason, I'm thinking fall. I don't think it's late summer. It's going to shift back into Saturn and Capricorn to complete that transit before shifting into Saturn and Aquarius fully. And there's a significance to what we've been dealing with and what we've been working on. And some of the words that Spirit has been giving me in this process that I've been relaying, like pretty much since the inception of the channel. So now we're getting some revelations because it's time as to how that kind of ties into the synchronization with the electromagnetics of the astral zodiac construct. Again, everything is useful. So, I don't look at the astral zodiac construct as if it has control over me or y'all any more than someone creating an astral construct of, a contemporary myth, you know what I'm saying, that grows and gathers power over time is going to have control over anyone. But the electromagnetics are what they are. So if it's present, and there's a lot of, kind of like time-based energy that has supported these configurations because they're in the astral and the mundane experience, the physical world experience is below the astral. The odds are we're going to experience them regardless. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there are a lot of, different pathways and energetic pathways that you can take to move forward in your life, but it is what it is, bumping up against some of the electromagnetic frequencies that come through that construct. You know what I'm saying? Just is what it is. I mean, people struggling with budgets and struggling with loneliness and struggling, you know what I'm saying, with those sorts of things. That's classic Saturn and Capricorn. So whether we like it or not, those electromagnetic energies are available. The question is, how is it useful to you and what do you do with them? And when you're dealing with a Saturnian construct, you're dealing with self-discipline, self-mastery, wisdom, persistence, and the steel that you build within, and the strength that you have to pull up, you know what I'm saying, on a primal level, and then utilize wisely. So everything is useful. And then, of course, the Starcestry. So there are some pre-channeled underlying themes to the Starcestry. There are longer Starcestry videos that were going to show up on the Patreon, but there has kind of been a mode switch because I ended up switching timelines. And it was necessary because of what I was dealing with before. It was necessary. It was inevitable, really, is the way that I'm looking at it. And I'm feeling a lot more empowered and a lot less like frantic, like I have to juggle a million things. You know what I'm saying? So those recordings are still up. Those recordings are they're still, they still exist. And so by the time you guys are hearing this reading, they should be uploaded to the new platform. Just keep an eye on the links that show up in the comments. The new platform, which it would show up in the description box, has a different kind of model. I'm looking at Patreon right now as something that when my timeline synchronizes with it, you know what I'm saying, I can deal with it. I think it's an amazing, it presents an amazing opportunity for creatives and intuitives, as a platform to connect with supporters and for us to kind of get back to that true like giving space when it comes to the content we really enjoy, rather than, you know what I'm saying, dealing with what kind of mass media would like us to partake of and places in front of us, you know what I'm saying, and then kind of demands we pay for. So I've always been about that life. You know what I mean? Supporting, a lot of times it's been me supporting what's underrepresented, and that's where I've really come across the most profound individuals, the most profound art, the most profound spirituality that's out there. You know, rarely have I seen any of it in the mainstream, or, you know, what's popular. So the new platform, I actually dig, I think, for right now, for this time, I think it's, like, I dig it. You know what I'm saying? It kind of flows, in a lot of ways, like, better than Patreon is right now for me. For whatever reason, it just wasn't working out with me getting the links, you know what I'm saying, to, like, work and turn into videos, and I just honestly did not have the time to dedicate between creating the podcast, the other activities that, you know, I engage in, you know what I'm saying, to pay my bills. There wasn't the time there to figure out what the glitch was. It's possible that because I was doing it on a phone, because they do kind of warn to do it from a desktop, but it's been much more easeful for me to do it on a phone. So maybe that's the barrier, but, like, when there are that many barriers, what I've really learned, in the past, I used to just push forward, and I would eventually overcome it. But what a grand waste of time, seeing synchronicity. What a grand waste of time when I really look back, outside of the persistence and the, you know, the metal, the steel that I built within myself, through going through so much adversity. But at the end of the day, like, what's the point? So I'm definitely enjoying the path of least resistance now. I mean, and this is something that I have avoided for so many years. Even having studied it spiritually, it just didn't resonate with me because of where my mind was oriented, and me heavily dealing with those Moon and Capricorn electromagnetics, where maybe it's because I felt I had something to prove to myself. Part of it was rebellion, where it was just like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to unjustly create all of these problems and cause, you know what I'm saying, cause me to fail. I'm going to keep going and succeed anyway. And it's a great attitude to have. But there are times when that sort of thing outwears its usefulness. Like, when you've reached a certain level of strength and there's certain things that you can handle, I don't really need to prove it to myself anymore. And I think that's why I've come to this path of least resistance situation, and it's just enhanced vibrations so much. The frequencies that I'm in on a personal level, it's like the clear sky that came up in the monthly. It's that clear sky energy that I was on and off. I was, like, tapping into it, and then then I found myself dealing with, like, that old timeline nonsense, and I really just had to get correctly calibrated and finally accept the path of least resistance. So, all that to say, the new platform, the way it's set up, gives y'all the opportunity to donate or not, you know what I'm saying? And it's, I think it's $99, $4.99, and $9.99. I don't believe I have any control over the pricing on that. That's just the way that they have it set up. But it will enable me to, there's also, like, this feature where I can do readings for y'all. You know, like, those of you who don't mind it being, like, on air. Like, you can send your questions in. You can record your questions, and then I can respond to them when I'm putting together the podcast. I can do the reading, you know what I'm saying? So I can do that for those who donate, you know what I mean? And it makes it just gives you more, in addition to the Starcestry that's going to be posted and the energy transmissions that are going to be posted. So I'm going to be trying that out and see how it goes. Spirit is giving me, it's acceptable. I mean, the fact is, I didn't listen when I should have, and that was, like, September, when I was being given that, like, look, you need to get into that spirit of exchange thing. And I didn't realize the impact that it has, because this is a message that really, like, empaths in general, like, have been needing to get en masse. You know what I'm saying? Because where we place ourselves and how we move forward can't be like that self-sacrificial lamb thing that we're so accustomed to from generations of martyrs and sacrificers and enablers and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So by us setting the bar for there to no longer be an energetic void being created, it actually benefits the world even better than us fixing everyone's problems for them. So we're coming out of some habits that have contributed to the toxicity. Just to put it simple and plain, there was a place for it. There was a need for it. There was a strong need for buffers. But now it's coming to a point where a lot of people are having to pull themselves up on their own, and it's not so difficult when they're being honest with themselves. And when they're in their heart light, there's tons of assistance. When they're in their heart, there's tons of assistance. So this is kind of a time where we're not really, and Spirit's giving me acknowledgement, a confirmation on that, we're not really supposed to interfere with this self-disciplining and wisdom, this accruing of wisdom process that's been taking place en masse. You know what I'm saying? Because people are going to need the wisdom, and they are going to need the metal and the steel they've created within themselves. So if we're going in and fixing everyone's problems, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and if you yourself have, as an empath, have been in that position, you're wondering, like, why, as that's happening, is less and less and less has been flowing properly in my life. If you've been asking yourself that question, it's because the dynamic has changed. We're entering into a new era where it's not going to work like that. Of course, people can help one another and be in their heart light and be giving and what have you. But if you have a sacrificial lamb, then you also have a predator on the other binary end. It's a duality situation. So that's the spiritual math in it, and I resisted it because of habit. And I'm feeling a lot better now that I've taken the time I need to take. So I appreciate y'all who've had patience with it. We're going to move on past that into the reading portion and start out with these full moon and Gemini waves that are going to be coming in, I believe, a little bit after midnight, actually. I don't have the exact time, but I think it's just a little bit after midnight. You can check your time zone to see. I know calculatorcat.com. I haven't checked it in a while, but they used to give you like exact times for moon phases, so you can like go and take a look at that. All right, y'all. So I'm going to give you the pre-channel because I went over each of these sections with Spirit, to give like the best information that is available. According to some of these changes, obviously the change that's going to be coming when we deal with that temporary burst of Saturn and Aquarius electromagnetics and the Starcestries, rather than go to the ones that y'all can just listen to on the new platform, we're actually doing a pre-channel for like the underlying theme of now until spring and around spring. I really should look for the exact date. I did look into it, but I didn't write it down. But the Saturn and Aquarius energies, so interestingly, from now until Spirit is saying correct about that time, what the underlying theme is that you're going to be dealing with on a Starcestry level. So this is what we're thinking is most useful at this time for a video post. And those of you who are particularly interested in the Starcestry and are, interested in the spirit of exchange and the donation option, can look into the description box and check out the link to the new platform and then sign up that way. And that's pretty much that. And those of you, who don't have a problem with the readings, you know what I'm saying, being somewhat public, and I won't like expose, like I do know how to do it in a way that's discreet, but that will speak to the heart of the issue in a way you'll understand whatever you bring to the table. That will be available for those who sign up as donators, like whether you sign up 99 cents, $4.99, $9.99, whatever you feel like you can provide and feel like what is provided over there is worth to y'all. All right, so full moon in Gemini. What I'm getting from the full moon and Gemini waves there, it feels like Riddler energy. So, okay, Spirit's confirming. So, like, more testing. But, okay, so Spirit is confirming what my next thought was. But the way that it feels is, like, old, and Spirit's saying that I've gotten locked out. Okay, so it's old timeline foes, Spirit saying that's appropriate for me to use that word. Kind of old timeline foes trying to find a way in. We have been dealing with this, y'all, since Mercury in Pisces. Well, before that, obviously, because there was that whole system glitch that took place around Venus in retrograde, where there was really like a worming its way in type of energy that threw off some things in a major way for a lot of people. But the Mercury in Pisces energy, when Mercury was in retrograde in March of 2019, y'all, there was so much of that, so many efforts to create illusion and confusion, and trying to access folks at a certain level. Because we would have, honestly, without that issue, we would have been, and Spirit's confirming, we would have been moving up to our higher timelines then. So basically what Spirit's giving me is it wasn't allowed, like what took place, with that energy that was like trying to access on a corrupt level around that Venus in retrograde time, it like wasn't allowed, like it wasn't supposed to go down, period. But because it did, we dealt with it as we dealt with it. You understand what I'm saying? So there was actually another layout for how things were supposed to go. So if you, let's say you were tuned into readers who were giving you different information at that time and it didn't quite turn out that way and you started to lose faith in that, it was not supposed to go the way that it went. So they were reading probably the energies according to how it was going to go if things, weren't tampered with. So when you look at the dynamics, full moon in Gemini right now is dealing, there's a face-off. You can go and look into the depths of it, but I'm pretty much just looking at the electromagnetics of the situation. So there's like kind of like some face-off energy between the Gemini sign and Neptune. Remember, Neptune just came out of retrograde, and there was a whole bunch of lies, deceit, and nonsense that were trying to throw off reality and also trying to drag people into kind of generational enslavement through like timeline-based, like same old. So to really keep people trapped in certain types of, in Spirit saying correct, karmic patterns. Even with new people, like it's not difficult to introduce new agents if there's already an energetic pattern there and the person's buying into it. Someone else can just be rolled on into your life to assume that position if they match the magnetics. If they're vibrating at a low place and they're deceivers, the type who are going to bold-faced lie to you or set things up in a certain type of way because really their goal is to either usurp your position or make use of you in a way that is not balanced and isn't like, based on like a loving exchange of energy. Those people are going to, be rolled into certain positions. So those were a lot of the attempts that were being made. And when we were dealing with the deep wave energies in November, a lot of it was to clear that out, and there were certainly tests. So any of y'all who are still dealing with any lies you were told, really keep in mind that those lies were told to literally shift you into a dimensional focus so that you're in a different timeline. And it is real, y'all. I've had situations where the phone, for instance, where what the phone would give me access to was like timeline based, where I would go and look something up and I would see like, let's say I was going to look up, let's say, on a blog, and I'm looking for like the latest post, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't available. But then when my timeline shifted and I looked, it had been available like 2 days ago, or 2 days previous to when I looked. So you remember when we would deal with shifts and that sort of thing, we were dealing with it would affect our electronics. You might find your phones suddenly start charging slower or suddenly start burning through the battery life. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you know you're dealing with something dimensional. You know what I'm saying? Heavy winds have, like, to my notice, have always been at play. Heavy winds where you're like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is this? Something's going on at that point on a dimensional level. All right, so the face-off energy between Gemini and Neptune, you can just really go back. It's okay. So Spirit is saying it's not going to be that exaggerated. So rest easy, y'all. It's not going to be as exaggerated as what we went through in March of 2019. However, there are going to be tests that are going to be along similar lines. So don't be surprised if people who have lied to your face in the past pop up again with something new. You know, or still maybe trying to carry on the same old lie. Do not be surprised. Don't be surprised if, like, a song and dance that's been used to kind of worm its way into your life is attempted. You know what I'm saying? What this affords you, and Spirit saying that's correct before I get it out. And thank you, Spirit. What this affords you is the ability to steady your mind, to bear witness to your ability to steady your mind regardless of what's swirling around it trying to get in. Okay? Because, you know, the ether is very real. Your thought frequencies, very real. You know what I'm saying? So, with full moon in Gemini, what Spirit gave is free yourself from the illusions that have kept you small. On higher timelines, you are giants. And Spirit's like basically was relaying, like, really sit with that, like let that resonate, right? Your dreams hold a wealth of information, so you're really going to want to start paying attention. I know I've been having some like wild dreams. You're really going to want to pay attention to the dreams, the symbolisms, the people who keep popping up Spirit is giving me in your dreams. They're holding a wealth of information, and Spirit is saying stop ignoring them. So that's to any of y'all who are not listening, stop ignoring those dreams, because like they're literally giving you a wealth of information. And Spirit's saying keys to access other timelines. And Spirit's saying if you sit with it, you'll understand. You know what I'm saying? Spirit said, or understand. We know you like that. Okay, all right, yeah. All right. Let me see. All right, yeah. Okay, and so the other thing here is anything that comes up in these full moon and Gemini waves, because, you know, the full moon is typically a 2 to 3 day thing electromagnetically, but those waves can still kind of linger, especially if any situations are created or latched onto or reconnected with. You're going to want to be careful what you engage with and what you get attached to in that time. Because what Spirit said is basically like Spirit's relaying, like if it feels shady, like it is shady. All right, so you don't need to launch a study on it. You don't need to look into it and figure out, is this a lie? Well, I'm going to go and ask around, or I'm going to, you understand? You don't need to do all that. If it feels wrong, it's wrong. You can move on. You know what I'm saying? And what Spirit specifically said is go the other way. All right, so something's coming up. Some of it might be easy. Some of it might be like, I've had this test like 15 times this year. I know the answer. Great. Go the other way. Don't even engage. That's like your clue that, oh, this is just that same old. Well, don't allow an access point to be created. Don't give it emotional resonance. Y'all, I had a situation yesterday where I had to encounter an individual who had all of the audacity in the world to part their lips and speak to me, okay? And in the past, I'm on my empath steez. I might have been like, peace and kept it moving. I looked at this individual, and then I looked the other way, and it was completely like, it was based on all the work I've been doing, because there was no need for me to exchange a pleasantry with someone who is rankly unpleasant and maniacally so, like someone who intends to be unpleasant and creates jacked up situations for anyone they can. You understand what I'm saying? So in me not speaking to this person and acknowledging just by looking at this person, you know what I'm saying, and turning the other way, that you're not someone I'm even trying to speak to, it did the work that needed to be done. And I did feel any residual heaviness that was connected to that situation fall away. And it was quite telling to me of how the simulation will try you. Like when it's like, oh, you think you're on a new timeline and you're in good waves. Well, look what we've got coming. Because it was like really a little too too synchronized where this took place, where it was like, what are the odds, you know what I'm saying, that I would bump into this person in this place, and that this person would call my name, like call my attention, like no shame for like, and y'all, if any of us ever engage like in more of a private community situation, in conversation, and we're sharing our story times, then you will understand. This was one of those things where it was like, seriously, the individual is fortunate that I am composed, you know what I'm saying, and that I'm following the wisdom that I had to really start working on building that muscle of not engaging. You know, because I used to have that thing to me before. If a confrontation needed to be had, I would have it. But I noticed, like, with certain types of people, a confrontation or an intervention is meaningless, and it's a waste of energy. Because if you're dealing with people who have decided to completely engage in selective listening, then you really are wasting your words and your time, and the question becomes, how is your time better spent? And in electromagnetics, such as those associated with Saturn and Capricorn, it is all about, how are you utilizing your time? What are you focusing on? What is important at the bare bones level? What is important to you? You know what I'm saying? Because this is the framework you're building for the future. All right, so that was the full moon in Gemini, the spirit-guided transmission. I'm going to go ahead and pull a card to add on to that. Ooh, all right. Okay, y'all. Yeah. So Spirit's saying, okay, before I give you the card, because my mind went in a certain place, and Spirit was like, this is not exactly 0 point. So it's not exactly like we're going to find ourselves at 0 point in the full moon in Gemini waves, because Spirit said it's very close. Okay, so if any of y'all, whether you've tuned into this channel or other channels, and you've dealt with empaths, you know, or clairaudience or clairvoyance or astrologers, whoever you listen to, and they told you we're dealing with 0 point energy, if you remember what that feels like, it can feel very much like a void. And it can be scary, but we have been put through it so many times in this ascension process, and especially over the past over a year now, you know what I'm saying, but longer. But this year was like so it was so accelerated and repetitive with the lessons that that continue to be reinforced, right? That at this point, when it comes through, it really shouldn't be inspiring any fear, because you have the strength to get through it. Spirit saying that's correct. So the card that came up is, you are a loving, illuminated being, and the underlying subtext is draw in the light. All right, this is deep. This is like, it's very profound, the subtext of this card. It's 1D energy. You're dealing with your existential energy. So the things that come at you are trying to get you at that level. You know what I'm saying? This would be close to the middle point in your root chakra is what Spirit is giving me. So it's like, okay, so Spirit is saying this is basically like, this is where if people are trying to usurp your wealth, this is where they try to get you. This is where they come at you. So when there is an attempt at accessing, you know, your earned abundance and your generationally earned abundance, you know what I'm saying? It's illusion that is utilized, and the tactic is obviously to make you feel smaller. So you want to remember that you're a loving, illuminated being, like in your reality, and when you can get into that thought frequency, it makes it very difficult for anything to come at you, and you'll see it. Like, we're at that point where you'll see it. And for some of you who, you know, really like know which star system energies tend to be most predominant in you, there's more information in the longer Starcestry podcast that touches on the awakenings that we've been dealing with on certain levels, and what it looks like, and what it's for, and how it's coming to be, you know what I'm saying, in this whole quantum embodiment process. So what you do here is you draw in the light. So Spirit is saying anything you can do to remind yourself really that you have worth, and like that you're meant to be here. Just a moment. that you're meant to be here because you have a purpose. Really, like, hold on to that. And it's coming through spirit. Like, that is precisely the line of thought you want to go in. You could try anything you want to try, but if you find it doesn't work, come on back to the channel, or you could write it down now and rock that. Really hold on to that realization, that thought frequency, that you are a loving, illuminated being. Like, you have a purpose. You're here for a reason. You understand what I'm saying? That makes it extremely difficult for anything to come in and try to inhabit any areas within you that you're still working on. You know, this could be like this. Literally, I'm trying to tell y'all, this could be people who are attempting to trick people into pregnancies, whether it's a male trying to put someone in that position or whether it's a female, you know, because that was coming up. You know what I'm saying? Literally. And you can have those who will lie about it, because I've experienced that, you know what I'm saying, on my end of the equation with some loved ones where that was happening. You know what I'm saying? On repeat. So it is, you know, one of those things where if you are affirming that you're here for a reason and you have worth, it's very difficult because they don't have the energy that they used to create the illusions. Some things have been able to be pulled, but it depends. It depends on where your frequencies are. If you allow yourself to go into a very depressed space, then yeah, it's very, very easy for them to play with you. But if you keep going back to those empowered thoughts that you've been working with and your practices that have helped you to feed your higher timelines, then that is what you're going to create around you and what's going to be in your electromagnetic field. And there are going to be less and less ways to trick you out of knowing your worth and what is actually possible for you to embody here. And it is important, or you wouldn't be here at this time to undergo a quantum embodiment process, and you surely wouldn't be attracted to this channel or continuing to come back to this channel if there weren't aspects of you that were experiencing some very profound things that you were really seeking a deeper understanding about. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you came here for a reason. You know what I'm saying? A lot of y'all are profound. A lot of y'all are like the hidden forces. And I'm just going to leave it there, because those of you who know what that means, know what that means. You know, and that's a huge deal, because it's very easy to get out there and have tons of attention in whatever field you're in. But typically, the misfits, the outcasts, the hidden, what is another way to put it? The geniuses, you know what I'm saying? The eccentrics, you know what I'm saying? It's y'all who, and Spirit says it's excellent to say before I've gotten it out. Thank you, Spirit. Y'all are the ones creating a lot of the waves. This world, like, direly depends on. Like depends on. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so to feel small it's underserving the majesty, the true majesty of your position. And of course the simulation doesn't want you to see your true majesty, because then you can get power, you know what I'm saying, along with it, and you can create stronger and better waves, you know what I'm saying, for the communities you're in, and you can really help people to come up into higher timelines. And then, well, there ain't no poverty no more at that point. If you got a whole bunch of inspired people who are actually looking at their past and doing what they really want to do, you don't have people in jobs that don't fit them because they're trying to save face or own a cherry red sports car to impress so-and-so, or because everyone in their family is a doctor and so they decide to be a doctor when really they're an artist or a shaman. You understand what I'm saying? So this is where you reclaim your sense of worth, and you're really gonna want to focus on that with these full moon and Gemini energies, so that you can really be in Spirit's giving confirmation in that synchronized right and left brain hemisphere, as opposed to allow something to come in and try to basically, you know what I'm saying, trap you in a polarized position within yourself by putting an interference in the middle, whether it's the interference of a person, you know what I'm saying, with family links that ain't meant to be there. You know, because it happens, y'all. It happens. People get trapped in family lineages through marriages that were never supposed to happen because one of the people decided that they were going to trick another person into a marriage. And, you know, it's not a comfortable thing to speak about, but it's real like that. You know what I'm saying? And that can really throw things off. You know what I'm saying? For the rest of the family, when you have an introduction of energies and children that come through that and then have to balance out some extreme discord that doesn't belong there because from the jump, the mating sequence was incorrect. You know what I'm saying? Because someone had, you know, it's a word I'm looking for because I keep using the word usurper. But because something coveted rather than loved. You know, it's a different thing to see someone and be like, oh, that's shiny and I dig that. And celebrate it and just show it love. And it's quite another thing to be like, I'm going to trap that and that's mine. When it ain't. When that person got a whole soulmate and soul tribe they're supposed to be vibing with. All right, y'all? So get out the trap if you're in it. And if you ain't in it, what feels shady is shady. All right? All right, y'all. Just take note of the time and date stamp. We're gonna I'm gonna give you the transmission of the Saturn and Aquarius coming up that towards the spring of 2020. So what Spirit relayed to me is that the quantum embodiment that we've been working towards is it's about mastering your thoughts because they are vehicles. They are vehicles that define the ethers. All right, so thoughts in themselves are vehicles, right? And this makes a lot of sense because they're patterns, and they hold energy. And if they're vampiric, then they can continue to draw your energy. You can be like, yo, why do I feel so exhausted? And that's me adding that in. So what else? The other thing that came through Spirit is the restrictions you faced have tested your mettle. And most of you know your strength now. So the objective here now is like to rest, recalibrate, by focusing on your objective whenever you need to. So, also, you are not a victim to energetic shifts. So this is like a big deal to pay attention to. I'm just adding that as a sidebar. With the strength you've been building up, you can direct these shifts in your life, but only through mastery of mind. All right, so that's what's coming through Spirit. So I just want to touch on, I'm not going to pull a card for this aspect of it, because this is really just to get y'all prepared and comprehend what is coming, because when Saturn is in Aquarius, the order of things and the frameworks of things is going to be very, very quantum. So what you are building, what we've been building, is hugely important. Hugely important, because the Saturn energy, you know, it's like that Saturn energy, it's what creates the bone work. It's the physical matter. You understand what I'm saying? That is built through thought frequencies. You understand? It's close to that 0 point energy, you know, because it's what emerges here. And it can be very close to primal. You know what I mean? It really has a lot to do with survival at some of its degrees. And in the sign of Capricorn, it has had a lot to do with survival. So one of the really major things that stuck out to me from the channel was rest, recalibrate by focusing on your objective. So when we talk about recalibrations, I had to do a lot of that. And I began to realize, because Spirit will let you figure things out on your own. Spirit will tell you some things, and if you choose not to listen, or if you're like, oh, okay, thank you, and maybe you think you are listening, but you're not quite getting it. If you're not too far out of range where Spirit has to kind of give you a sign that you need to like get back on track, like Spirit will, you know, is going to let you figure it out. It's your life, right? So as I was recalibrating, I was realizing these different levels of myself, these like highly analytical levels of myself, which well, y'all will see with the Starcestry, which has a lot to do with any vegan ancestry that I have. It would cause stopping points, I think. It would really cause like halts, you know what I'm saying? in the flow, in my own flow. So it's like these things will manifest. They'll take on physical manifestations, and they really, anything that's like a person, place, or thing that can embody that can become a manifestation of a blockage that's created on a thought level. And so like these recalibrations I went through really helped me to see that I do that. And through the path of least resistance and continuing to come up into that energy, and I really did have a lot of cues from spirit, like you need to sit down, relax, you know what I'm saying, go get something to eat, you know what I'm saying. It was like really like that. It was like having a loved one around you. It's like, you need to sit down right now, you don't have the energy. And it helped me to get right, y'all. It helped me to accept the flow. So for some of us who are on the empath journey, we have been so like beaten down that it became a way that we relate to ourselves on a worth level, where it's like, well, I always have to keep going, and I always have to be strong, and I always have to be busy, and I always have to get things organized. And no, you don't. Especially if you want, there are certain things, obviously, you know, that you're going to want to, you know, keep in order to your best of your ability. But when you don't have the energy, when you really don't have the energy, Spirit will provide a way for you. Spirit will bring somebody in or something in the least of your expected, like you never would have expected it, and you finally get to take that break for, you know, for a week that you need to, like, just to maintain your ability to think clearly and not go into confusion and unfortunately have to deal with, you know, any kind of predatory energies waiting for a confused person to wander into those ethers. All right, y'all. So the rest and recalibrate is a big deal. And when what Spirit is saying here is rest and recalibrate by focusing on your objective whenever you need to. And that's like the other thing that popped out at me. It's like whenever you need to. So if this is like 10 times in a day, well, then that just means that you're working on that in your spirit and on a multidimensional level, on your quantum embodiment level. So the more that you recalibrate, you're now like that higher timeline. You're now creating the groundwork that's going to make it possible for you to deal with that higher timeline recalibration, which will eventually become an unconscious process for you and much easier, instead of having to go back into that old broken timeline. Kind of, I don't even want to call it a recalibration, but just like, you know, like a fall, like falling into an old pattern. You know what I'm saying? So the more that you work on that, the more you recalibrate, the more you recognize when you need to recalibrate. What do you recalibrate with? Your objective. Where are you trying to get to? You know what I'm saying? And what are some of the supports? Even if you want to Netflix and stream something for 3 days to get yourself right, well, go on ahead. You understand what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is that you need. If you really just you need to eat some good food, and you need to not be the one who's always cooking it, and you want to eat out, then maybe it's time, if you have the means at that moment, to dip into your savings. And what's her channel? Cute Couponer. She is amazing. Y'all go. I think it's Cute Couponer. Go check her out. She got ways where y'all don't even have to dig into your pockets that deep if you're like dealing with like an extreme budget. But if you really need something good, just to keep your spirits in a certain place, go on ahead. Rest and recalibrate, and focus on your objective, and that's going to get you where you need to go. And it doesn't matter how many times you have to do it. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means that if you start to fall into an old energetic pattern, some of those old predatory energies have been lurking and waiting for that. So you want to be able to recalibrate and shift yourself. What else Spirit said? You are not a victim to energetic shifts. So we've been dealing with that a lot, where it'll come through. We're going through another shift, y'all. We're going through another shift. We're not victims to that. And I love that Spirit gave this and put it that way. You are not a victim to energetic shifts. We're not. And what Spirit is saying is, at this point, with the strength that we've been building up, we can direct these shifts where we want them to go in our life. And that is a big, huge deal when we're talking about multidimensional strength, multidimensional consciousness. You know what I'm saying? And what that's going to mean for the path forward. All right? You know, I'm not going to get into all of the details with that because, like, the videos are like 44 minutes. And I think, like, some things, it's better not to speak on them fully. There will be better times to get into why it is so important that we dealt with this framework level as much as it has, you know, not been the most joyous experience to work through. It's one of those, and Spirit's saying correct, it's one of those not joyous passages that you will be very thankful that you worked through it in the right mental framework. And so the last thing that Spirit said, right, was these shifts in your life, you can direct these shifts in your life, but only through mastery of mind. All of this has helped us to master our minds and to come up into a much more capable level of quantum embodiment where we're going to be able to deal with what comes. So those of y'all who have half-heartedly been doing the work, it's your life. It's totally up to you how you want to do it, but you really might want to start working on your habits of self-care, your habits of building yourself up, because how you treat yourself, and a lot of these things have been unconscious, how you treat yourself is how you're going to be treated. So if you need to rest, then you just need to rest. And if you have people who are like really hanging on your energy and pulling you down, and whenever it is you're getting back up and you're getting motivated and here they are again, then some of the people need to be cut loose, or you just need to take some space from them if it's not so dramatic that you feel like you need to cut them loose, but you're going to need to take some space. And if they're persistent or, God's forbid, narcissistic, then find you a new routine where you're not so easily accessed. Don't be at the same spots that they know they can locate you at, and don't return messages or answer calls if you aren't with it. You know what I'm saying? Period. You need to, like, what's more important to you at this point? Nobody got time to play games with people who are caught up in time loops intentionally and could get themselves out of that time loops and probably have all the support in the world, to do so, but continue to go towards, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep this as general audience as possible, but the effery. You ain't got no time to be dealing with people who are like just obsessed with being caught up in the effery, because they're going to have to deal with the aftermath of that. And do they really deserve to be able to knock on your door and have you make all of their problems go away? I don't think so. That's just me. All right, y'all. So we are going to move on to the Starcestry. All right, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and really quickly. Wait, how should I do this? Actually, let me pause and recalibrate. Let me pause and kind of recalibrate my thoughts on this, because I have it laid out, but I'm wondering if I should, like, actually, as I'm reading the card, because we're at like 47 minutes, and I don't want to have this be too long a video. Like in the movie Clue, too late, right? But because I was just gonna read the underlying. Nah, I'm gonna pull a card for each. Hold on, just a moment. It's really not going to seem like you're holding on at all. But I'm gonna press pause for a moment. All right. I think the best way to do this for just to maximize the available moments. You see, I've been trying to avoid using the word time, right? Unless it applies to what we're talking about. I'm going to actually draw the cards for the 6 star systems. I'm going to pull one card, since there are already Starcestries you're going to be able to tune into on the other platform. And then I'll give you the underlying spirit message that was channeled. All right, so excuse me, just have to move a few things out of the way. Okay. So, since we're doing time and date stamps, let me go on ahead and write down Sirius's focus. Sirius. Alright, so Sirians, your message from Spirit is you're not defeated, okay? Look again. Okay, so this is not paraphrased. This is exactly what came through from Spirit. You are not defeated. Look again. Also, Spirit adds, like, record your dreams, like, as much as possible, all right? And Spirit's now saying you're going to want to have those for the years ahead, all right? So, I mean, now, let me just add, look, some of the dreams that I had some dreams, in the 90s where it might have even been before that, a little bit before that. I'd have to go back because I do believe I wrote that particular one down, that I saw a massive synchronicity with, I think it was yesterday, and it was undeniable. So Spirit has this way of speaking to you well in advance. You understand what I'm saying? So if Spirit's telling you, like, record your dreams as much as possible, and this is, like, going to be for, the years ahead, something you can look back at. These are channels. Spirit is saying, correct. These are channels. Write them down. Take the time. Maybe you don't feel like it in the morning. It's fine. Just take the time. Once you create that habit, it's going to be easier, and you're not going to keep having that I don't feel like it feeling. All right, so, and one of the things you do is if you're having any challenges with recollection, start with the feeling, like, did you feel fear? Did it feel good? So was it a pleasure dream? Was it a pain dream? You can start there. Write down anything. If it's a name you remember, if it's a phrase. Like, I had a dream recently where it was point blank, period, like a descriptor, like a title that I guess was describing certain people that I might have gone in a certain direction, and it was straight up telling you what to expect. And Spirit can speak to you. I have read documents in dreams before. You understand what I'm saying? That made, I've heard it said, like, you can't read in dreams. It doesn't make sense. Not true. Like, I've had, like, yeah, it wasn't, like, what you would consider perfectly edited according to how we would see it, but I've literally read documents in dreams where I was reading a document. You understand what I'm saying? So it can happen, and don't believe the hype. It's possible sometimes that people will say that because they're dealing with a limitation they haven't broken through, of what they find they can't do. But if you're dealing with people who are like, you can't, that's not possible, you always want to ignore that. Your true path is bliss is the card that came up, exalted vibration, Sirians. Daisy is the flower that you can either meditate with or make your own flower essence with, or go out and buy a flower essence. It's a 5D card, which typically has to do with crossroads energy. And your true path is bliss has to do with your higher timelines. But usually when it comes up, or in the past, let me put it that way, like in the past year, when it has come up, there was a crossroads energy taking place where, folks had the ability to shift to the better timeline instead of engaging with whatever was positioning itself as opposition, or really trying to entrench someone in some kind of misery. And if not an outright misery, some kind of sense of limitation that they just couldn't lift or get past, all right? I'm feeling like a lot of y'all are dealing with things that, like, are working on your minds, and if you feel like something's working on your mind and trying to get in, try not to be too spooked out, but I'm just going to say it plain. That's because that's what's happening. Your mind is yours. You understand what I'm saying? So what you choose to allow into your mind, like, the more you come into the realization that you are the master of your mind, you are the master of your mental realm, and if all is mind, then you are the master of your own universe. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have to let anything in, or any suggestions in, that do not resonate with your bliss path, and that applies to everything. All right, y'all, Spirit's telling me to move on. So I'm going to move on to Lyran's. I do hope that was helpful as for the Starcestry. I would get in more in depth, but y'all can look in the look in for the link of the new platform in the description box, and there are extended readings there. And even if you can't donate, you know what I'm saying, for whatever reason, it's set up in a way at this time where you can access the Starcestries anyway. But those who do want to ask like questions, and there's some other features that are going to be available to those who make like a monthly pledge, whether it's 99 cents or $4.99, or I believe the third tier is $9.99. It's like set up kind of according to how you're comfortable, as opposed to it's not exactly like Patreon, in other words. All right, y'all. So we're going to move on to Lyran's. All right, Lyran's. So what came up for you in the Spirit Channel is you're doing better. Hold on a minute. Pull this paper up. You're doing better. Steady yourself on your new timelines. Just a moment. Bliss awaits. Rediscover what brings you joy. So that is what is coming through for y'all Lyrans. And what the card that is drawn here is accept the support that's extended to you. Solidarity is the subtext. It's a 4D card, so it does deal with a lot of heart work, and having to get rid of those any of that generational timeline nonsense that made you feel unsupported in whatever areas of life where it appeared. All right. The flower essence you can meditate with is Datura, or I should say the flower spirit that you can meditate with is Datura, and I would recommend just meditate with the flower Datura, because it is a shamanic type of flower, and it's not really advised that you go out and get this flower essence or oil and kind of just approaching it from like a novice type of level, in the same way that people deal with ayahuasca, in the same way that people deal with DMT, not the natural DMT that we produce, which you can do that through meditation, y'all. And of course we deal with it coming in at birth, and through the so-called death experience when we're transitioning into a subtle body level beyond the physical shell. It can be, in other words, I was trying to use certain type of words. It can be a little bit dangerous. So if you really want to go there, then make sure that you're dealing with someone, a curandera, an herbalist, someone who knows what they're doing. All right, because it's not to be toyed with. But you can meditate with the spirit of the flower, because obviously the astral spirit of Datura precedes the physical flower Datura. All right, y'all. Accept the support extended to you. I'm getting that there are good things trying to happen for you, people trying to help. You may have already experienced people trying to help. Some of you may have been uncomfortable or tried to push it away, or no thanks, or that sort of thing. Stop it. You know what I mean? Accept the support that's extended to you. The support that's extended to you is coming. Basically, like what I'm picking up here, the Spirit's saying that's correct. What I'm picking up here is like you, in those moments where that's happening, you're in new timeline. You're in that new timeline wave. Well, Spirit's saying you've come up to that new timeline. You know what I'm saying? So in the process of accepting that support, you're helping to really settle yourself into that time, or Spirit saying calibrate into that timeline. If you go back into rejecting help, that's you feeding the belief that you don't deserve support. So you really want to pay attention to that if this card is coming up for y'all, Lyrans, okay? Again, Spirit said you are doing better. Steady, and steady yourself on your new timelines. Bliss awaits, and rediscover what brings you joy. This is your homework. All right, y'all? Okay, the Spirit is giving you there are dreams that are coming through for you, like that will manifest in the physical. Like you can see, you may see these things like in waking dream, astral travel. Spirit said astral vision, as you like to say. You're literally crafting the future on another level is what Spirit is giving. Okay. So when it starts to show up here, don't reject it. That's what Spirit just gave, and that makes all the sense in the world. You're already making you're creating that causality, on that dream space level. Whether it's waking dream, sleeping dream, whether it's your astral travel, your astral vision, when it starts to show up in the physical, how are you going to reject it when you called it? All right? My Spirit's saying I can move on. All right, y'all, so we're going to move on to, and thank you so much. If you want to hear the extended reading, now it was meant to be available in early December, you know what I'm saying, but it's still very much applicable, even though a little bit of time was lost, unfortunately, to some interference attempts, all right, y'all, but the message, it still holds true and is still quite helpful and can explain some of the things that y'all have been going through for any of you who need to recalibrate with it. All right, so we're going to be moving on to Vegans. All right, Vegans. What we have here is Sacred Root is what came up for you, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Here's what Spirit says. Y'all, get out of your heads. Channeling and overthinking are two different things. That is your message from Spirit. Okay? And it's true. It's very true. When you're channeling, it's a whole different wave. It's not where you're applying thought. It's not where you're projecting or you're utilizing, Spirit's saying correct, like that yang energy, that you would usually use if you're doing research, or usually if you're compiling a paper on something. It's a different energy. It's an energy that's coming in, and it will come through your higher chakras, but it is not the same as when you're applying like that kind of, when you're applying like critical thought, when you're using like your beta brain. It's a different wave. So clearly, if Spirit's saying channeling and overthinking are two different things, you want to pay attention to the thoughts in your head and where those thoughts are coming from. And, be careful so that what you do channel is it's coming through a channel wave, and you know that it's coming, you know what I'm saying, through like a higher, a higher calibrated type of frequency. All right, y'all. All right, so what you have here, Vegans, is Sacred Root. It's a 1D card, so this is really touching on some of those full moon Gemini energies, actually. Y'all have, a lot of y'all, and Spirit is saying most, have developed like this mental discipline where you can really be still, and it is very difficult for anything to sway you. This is obviously to your advantage. It is not so much to your advantage when you're looking to move into your flow. You want to, okay, Spirit's saying it's correct. Okay, yeah, because I'm trying to describe the energy, and it's like, it's to your advantage if you're maintaining a position for a reason. You understand what I'm saying? But when you're trying to get into a flow where you're receiving channels, you want to make sure it's not, and Spirit's saying it's correct, that it's not like your critical mind. You understand what I'm saying? That it's coming through Spirit. And that's going to require you to flow out of a certain type of framework. And if there are certain fears that are causing you to be stoic or overly disciplined, it really can be challenging. It's not that it can't be done, but it can be challenging at that level. So practices, I think for y'all, that quiet the mind, practices that quiet the body, because the mind-body connection is profound, y'all. That's why like yoga became such a popular thing, because when you can get your body into a calm state, you can calm your mind. So that's a great way for you to, if you're finding it difficult to do it in the reverse, then try it the other way. Try it the body way. And a really easy exercise is like you can tighten your muscles, like really tighten and constrict all your muscles, and then release and relax. It's really simple. You can do it when you're ready to go to sleep, and do it as much as you have to. And it encourages blood flow. It encourages flow, period. And all that tightening that is born of different anxieties or feeling like you got to watch out for this, you got to watch out for that. And when you get too locked up in that mentality, like, Spirit saying it's correct, it can become like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, you can start to generate, you know what I'm saying? Like, Spirit saying correct, like, because I didn't want to know if I should say it this way, but like your own enemies. You could start to generate enemies. So if like you're sitting there, you're like, they're trying to get you, you know what I mean? And these are the channels you're getting. Well, like, sure, you know what I'm saying? There's tons of opportunists out there that are trying to get someone who's not paying attention, but staying in a framework that's just locked tight in tension, it ain't really gonna get it. And it like eventually, if you stay locked into that, like you can come face to face with what you've been feeding all this attention to. So it's good to be aware and take note. But when you stay there and that becomes like your mode of how you deal with things, then you know what I'm saying? Like, then that's what you're creating. And for this to be sacred root, we're talking about the physical. You know, this is the root chakra card in the quantum root oracle. Like, this is like your root chakra. You know what I'm saying? And like, this is like where you deal with existentiality and survival and issues of having been supported in your youth, issues of traditionalism, all of these different things, and like your right to exist and be who you are and how you are. So remember, pay attention to the if you need to go back, like check out that full moon portion for the card that came out, because it could, Spirit is saying, to be helpful. Like, yeah, like this could be helpful to y'all to realize you're a loving, illuminated being. It's time for you to draw on the light. You want to hold that position? Wonderful. Draw on the light while you're there. All right, take the focus off the enemy, whoever the enemy is deemed at any given time, because you don't want that to be the predominant focus. It's good when it's necessary, but draw on the light. Bring the light into that position, because ultimately that's going to what's going to lift your vibratory frequency up out of it, so that I am worthy, I came here for a purpose. The more you work on that, that's literally what you're going to be moving towards, because your thoughts, if you're putting all of your thoughts into that, you're going to start to move into that. Your opportunities are going to come and arrive to you, because this is who you are declaring. You're declaring that I am worthy and I am here for a reason and a purpose. So now, this is how the reflection that we deal with in the mundane realm is going to react to you. And there really isn't a lot of room for enemies at that level. You know? So, I hope this was helpful. Is there anything else? Spirit is also saying to get more rest, vegans. Spirit is saying to get more rest. And there's more in the extended that really goes in deep, especially into some of the abilities that have been developed in the quantum embodiment process, and how it can be feeling for y'all, and how to deal with it. Because y'all really have been like the energetic vampire slayers, and you've helped to develop things that other star systems, you know what I'm saying, we all develop things for, you know, and the star systems work together, and that's something that came through the channels, you know, that I've had. So y'all are the ones who made it possible to get past like certain usurper energies, but you don't really want to be in. You've done a lot of the work for that already. Now it's kind of like, how are you gonna replenish? And y'all can go check that out, because we're definitely moving into a longer video. So I thank y'all so much for tuning in, and the link for the other platform is in the description box, y'all. Pleadian babies, I thought that I had pressed the button to record and just gave a whole reading. That's okay. It's okay. All right. So what came up for you? Ooh. Who is your heart bleeding for? This is direct from Spirit. It's time to stem the bleeding. Recalibrate according to the beauty you can bring to the world. Start there, okay? So what came through from Spirit, when I went over the card, you have a 4D card, which means you're dealing with heart balancing, heart chakra balancing, fourth dimensional balancing. Your heart is your compass. You know what to do. And you really do know what to do. So Spirit was saying, like, about half of y'all came dangerously close in these waves to going into old timelines. And it's from that same Pleadian bleeding heart type of frequency. But the question is, while your heart is bleeding for other people, are you just going to bleed out You know what I'm saying? Or are you going to pay attention to how the fact that your own heart needs your attention? When we're talking about your heart as your compass, it is not always about what everybody else needs. For there to be a balance, you also have to address your own needs, and this is on an emotional level as well. You have to address, if you enter a room and with particularly low vibrational people who've probably been through some extremely hard experiences, not to say you haven't, but Pleiadians tend to find a way to bring that energy up. You understand what I'm saying? But not everyone has had the same experience and isn't dealing with the same star system wave and isn't dealing with the same star system oats. Okay? So you go around certain people trying to flash that light. It's like Clover, I think her name is, from Watership Down with the Wabbits. I would definitely recommend watching the original movie, but the series on Netflix is pretty good. I still have to see that last episode. I left the last episode hanging. There's been so much going on. But she's going around. She was also enslaved in this, locked up in this box outside, but she still got to see the sun rise and fall. When she had to deal with these other rabbits, not to give away too many spoilers, who were kept away from the sun, they're looking at this, they're like, who is this chick? Like, what? The girl, sit down. You know what I'm saying? Like, sit down. Like, no. Anyways, you were saying, and they're listening to those they respect as comprehending the experiences that they're actually have gone through and are living. You understand what I mean? So Pleiadians, when you're constantly in a mode of who can you help and how can you help, it may be you. It may be you who needs the help right now. It may be you who needs to, these full moon and Gemini waves coming up, draw in the light. It may be you who needs to acknowledge that you exist for a reason and you have a purpose. It may be you who needs that light right now. So if we're in a balancing phase and you're like, why have there been such negative relationships? The question really becomes, and said with all love, because I get it, and I have a significant amount of Pleadian influence that has affected my life. Okay, and I really, it's an largely an empath type of thing. You really have to ask yourself, why did you gravitate to those situations, and why did you stay in them? Because people will let you, if they could sit there and, we'll use contemporary fantasy, let someone drink the blood out your neck, they will continue to do so. Sure, they will. Why not? It's available. And there's not going to be any respect that comes from it. So if you're like, well, how come I'm not getting respect in my relationships? Are you drawing your boundaries? Are you listening to your heart? Your heart probably told you to leave these relationships a long time ago. And whether it's religious ideas, whether it's generational, where just there's been a whole lot of martyrs in your line who just sacrificed themselves for everybody else, and you came up behind it thinking that's your role too, you have to be fed as well. You have to have that light as well. The balance has to return. So if you're like, well, how come... no disrespect to the rats out there, to the actual rats, but like, you're like, how come these fat rats keep getting fatter? You know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, like, how come you're not eating your own cheese? You know what I mean? Like, how come you keep dropping your abundance on the floor? Keep dropping it down to lower, you know what I'm saying? Kind of lower vibrational levels. Do you feel comfortable taking in what's good? Really, really important to think about Pleiadians. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's like an MF Doom lyric too, to really think about. Be too nice and people take you for a dummy. And that's something I feel all Pleiadians need to hear. Because there's a way to serve, and there's a way to keep it high vibrational without becoming like a straight up fool who's oblivious to the balancing needs in any situation. There does need to be, I had to learn that recently, there does need to be some level of reciprocity so that you know you're on the right wavelength. How can you continue to give if the light is not also coming to you? You can't. Eventually, well, I'm not saying you can't, like, who knows what you came down here with. You know what I'm saying, on a multidimensional focus, but typically I'll put it that way, typically the way that it works in this mundane realm, if you keep pouring out your goodness onto others, you know what I'm saying? But you won't let anything come back to you, because a lot of empaths block it. I've seen myself block it. No, I'm good. That's Pleadian ego all day long. You know, we've been taught to look at ego like it's narcissism only, you know, or certain levels of narcissism, so to speak. But there's that level of ego that's like, no, I'll find the strength. Okay, but I mean, you can let the good in. Too, you don't always have to be the one the fixer. That's not what it's about. And in order to shine light, you're going to need your time to rest and replenish, which means you deserve abundance too. All right, Palladians, Spirit is directing me to move on. I hope that was helpful. If you would like to tune into the channels that came through the December Starcestry, there's the link is in the description box, and you know it's available there. All right, y'all. There will definitely be more. There's some more products to come. Some of it's going to be in the form of publications, because I think it's like the best format. I was sitting here and I was thinking, like, what is the best format for some of these things? Because some of the channels that come through, like, I can really get in depth with, but to do a channel, like, let's say a Starcestry channel for a certain star system that's an hour long is like, I don't know if that's if it's the best format for that, but have something that folks can read while they're on the train, while they're, you know what I'm saying? You know, on the commute or whatever have you, I think is the best form for some of the channels that come through, and that way it makes it possible for me to do more channeling, and like have it recorded in a certain type of way. All right, so the Starcestries, I totally intend to still, you know, be doing them, but there are going to be some additional things that are going to be made available moving forward as well. So I thank you all for tuning in, and if you're interested in getting some of the extra information that was coming through for y'all Palladian babies, it is there. So check the link in the description box. All right, y'all. So we are moving on to Arcturians. All right, Arcturians. Your message here it came through from Spirit verbatim. The path to freedom from mental conflict is through the heart. You've been your own warden for a long time. Abandon your imprisonment. All right, that's the underlying theme to be exploring from now into the spring. All right, and the card that y'all got, just a moment, is 90, and it's sacred. I'm sorry, not sacred. I'm sorry, I had another card in mind. It's think, feel, embody, frequency, and vibration. And Snapdragon is the flower that's associated with it, so you can meditate with the astral essence, the astral spirit that precedes the form that comes down to the physical realm as the Snapdragon, so you can access it through meditation for that additional strength. 90 energies can definitely cause headaches and pressures in the head because pathways are being cleared so that your energy can move upward. Typically, this is primal, or a lot of times this is primal energy. The Spirit said not typically, but the primal energy is correct. So like, the primal energy will push it up. So this can be triggered. This can be a situation that is triggered upwards. The Spirit is saying it doesn't always have to be that way. But if you find yourself, Arcturians, in situations where you feel you're being met with a lot of opposition, or even things Spirit is saying, like even people, places, or things that are like, where you feel like from your lens that it's like daring you, like kind of daring you to come out of your like framework. It's like this is where you can assess who you truly are, and I think like the color scheme's it's a little bit the same as the Sacred Waters card, but I had the Sacred Waters card on my mind as I was looking at this card. But I checked with Spirit, and that is actually what y'all fear. a lot of y'all, most of y'all, Spirit is saying, is sacred waters, is this water element, and this can go back to issues with the mother or the early nurturing, or for a lot of Arcturians where you didn't have that nurturing force, you know what I'm saying, where you dealt with feeling outcast or feeling like a misfit. And it was for work. It was because you were developing, and Spirit's acknowledging it's correct, you were developing certain light codes at that level of what it is to be in that position and like develop what you develop at that position. So Spirit is saying eventually you're gonna have to deal with the animosity that you have towards your feminine nature, the feminine side, wherever it is. You know what I'm saying? I think some of you have exemplified it because it's like Spirit is saying where you've been kicked for it. You know, so some of you, if you're men, those of you who maybe more physically effeminate, on appearance or just in another way, this is where, if you're not careful, you can start to reject yourself as well. You know what I'm saying? But what is excellent about you probably has everything to do with it, with what is so different about you. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what's coming through Spirit. It's like a lot of you have found yourself in a position where you've created your own trap and really put a lot of energy into it by trying to resist being what you are. So Spirit is saying some of you, a lot of you, won't even really allow Spirit to help. You know what I'm saying? Because you still think there's something to figure out there. But there are Arcturians who've already moved up to the next level. And at this point, it's like you're just lingering in a ghost town, so to speak. For those of you who are having a particularly hard time with headaches with this 90 energy, it is indicating that you need rest. So they can basically your star systems can work on you while you're sleeping, because while you're awake your minds are rambling. So it's very difficult for Spirit to find access points to help you recalibrate in your waking state. So these headaches are really going to put you in a position where you have to rest. You know what I'm saying? Spirit saying, well, you don't have to. And unfortunately, a lot of you are resistant. You've developed some pretty impressive resistance capabilities, but now they're contributing to your downfall. Because what's trying to come in, I guess the waves that are trying to come in from what Spirit is saying are trying to lift you up to a higher level. And you're holding on to timelines that are disintegrating. Spirit is saying, we tell you to let go, but you wouldn't. So Spirit is saying, we're just going to tell you to rest and consider what you're really resisting. Because until you really accept yourself, the world's going to continue to respond to you the way it has. All right, y'all? And Spirit is making it clear they cannot help. Because you're not letting anything in to help. But Spirit is saying, but we do wish you very, very well. And now Spirit is directing me to move on, y'all. I hope that was helpful. There is additional, I'm seeing a big old synchronicity. There's additional information that is available through the link for the new platform. And they're longer readings. I think a lot of them are like 19 minutes. I think some of them might be like 26 or like in that range, like 19, 20 minutes, like somewhere in that range. And they're organized by star system. So if you want the kind of the longer channels that apply to some of the changes in the quantum embodiment changes this month, it is there. And remember, for this Think, Feel, Embody card to come up for y'all, frequency and vibration, it's like this is where by directing your thoughts, by really paying attention to where do your thoughts go. You can write it down. Like that's something like every time you catch yourself, you can have like a get yourself like just like you can have like a paper, or if you like have a journal, every time you catch yourself going into an obsessive line of thought, you know what I'm saying, like you can make a mark and then go on and count that at the end of the day, like how many times did your mind try to go into obsessive thoughts, and then you don't have to be surprised that that's where these negative feelings have been able to proliferate. Because your point of thought has gone on to, that's the energies that you're calling it, the energies that you're gathering, where you're going. Those are the astral places you're going to. And then that's what embodies here. So if you can start to, even make it if you find that like you go into obsessive thought like 30 times a day, and you make notations, because I think this Spirit said it would. I think this is something that Arcturians could really get behind as far as like a way to deal with this, is start to decide what thought frequency, where would you prefer to go, and then that will be the thought that, those 30 times a day at that time, set an alarm, whatever, and like this is what you say, and then do that for like a month, and if you got to do it for another month, until it starts to become a habit for your subconscious mind, so you can really start to get out of that habit pattern. All right, some of y'all might really have to do it that way, because like Spirit said, like there what was it, October, like that the energies came through after that primal wave energy. There was like that coronation, graduation energy. Like there were Arcturians who really made it to like a high level, and then there were those who like kind of like stayed behind, like intentionally. I remember that. You can go back and check that reading for any information that came from the outer wave stuff. But if you have to work with it like that in the mundane realm, that's the best way to handle it. All right, y'all. All right, so I'm gonna move on. All right, and so now we are, Orions, you, my dears, have the message from Spirit that is saying you are free now. How do you want to define your life? You know what puppet strings look like. Avoid them. All right, so I'll read it again. You are free now. How do you want to define your life? You know what puppet strings look like. Avoid them. All right? Okay, so the card that y'all have is Clear Sight. It's in the Sacred Garden suit. It's 8D. And the subtext of this card is God vision. All right? And this is dealing with the third eye. Impatiens is the flower spirit that you can meditate with. Or if you want to go out and get Impatiens, the physical manifestation of the astral spirit, then you can definitely do that too, or maybe DIY your own flower essence, unless you want to go and buy your own flower essence. The energies that I'm getting through this card is like there are certain things that some of y'all have not wanted to look at, and I think for the Spirit's saying about half, and it feels that way for about half of y'all. It's still that way, like where it's like kind of unhappy situation. Like looking back, okay, I'm getting what the wave is now. Like looking at certain situations, like really, those situations that popped up in your life that are disillusioning. But the gift, the Spirit is saying correct, the gift of those disillusionments is you can see things for what they are now. Now, you may not like how these things have manifested. You may not want these things to be as they are, but that's what they are. So when you can get into like that God vision focus, you can begin to pay attention to the energetic magnetics that have pulled your focus in those directions and may still, in some cases, Spirit said, be trying to pull your focus in those directions. You understand what I'm saying? So as you, because when you're dealing with like third eye energy, it does have a lot to do with like how much, the Spirit said very true, like how much strength do you have accumulated at your root chakra level? How embodied are you? Like how rooted are you? Spirit is saying, within your own framework. You know what I'm saying? So that you're acting as a functioning system. Because when you're doing that, you can think clearly. When you're, okay, so what Spirit is saying is like when you're not doing that, you're not in your framework, and your energy can be like sucked up, you know, by all kinds of things around you. So the opportunity that you have right now is to really be able to pay attention to where you are, how you got there, but I think it's like how you got there according to the magnetics, where you're starting to pay attention to how it feels, how it looks and how it feels, but like really what's the magnetism? What kept pulling you towards certain things? You know what I'm saying? And like what illusions were there? You know, because you got pulled there because of the magnetics. And you were looking at the illusions not with clear sight. And some of y'all may have gotten strong gut feelings on it or that sort of thing. But if you chose to ignore that, because listening to a gut feeling is an astral indicator that something is going on an astral level that you need to be paying attention to. You know what I'm saying? You don't get that for no reason. So if someone's trying to get you for energy, if someone's trying to latch onto you, you know, and I find that coming up a lot, and it's not always conscious. People out here a lot of people have been hungry for energy. So it's not necessarily always like this malicious thing on a conscious level, you know, but like if you ride like public transit, you know, if you're dealing, you know, with trains or buses or what have you, and people you don't know, and you find like you are trained when you come out of those situations. You know what I'm saying? You want to work more on being in touch with your framework. You know what I'm saying? And learning to maintain your focus and just see things as they are, and not get pulled into the magnetism of others. A lot of times you just really have that ability. And for this card to be coming up, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's where like some of y'all just don't want to, and the danger of that is if you don't want to, or you want to go back to sleep, or you'd rather just smoke some Chiba. And no disrespect to the Chiba, okay? Much respect to the Chiba, but I mean if you're using it for escapism, or you're using other intoxicants just for escapism because you don't want to see what's in front of you, then you miss the opportunity to clean up what's in front of you. Because if you take that sight and you start directing the magnetics. In Spirit, so that's excellent. So I mean, really pay attention to that. If you start directing your magnetics to where you want to go, and you start making that a habit, and you get into like your mind-body alignment framework, you know what I'm saying? This is where you're going to start to become attracted, and this is where you're going to start to create more of a network in the timelines that you'll be able to access. Is there anything else? Spirit said not really. Okay, so Spirit is saying you know what you need to know at this point, and that's like verbatim. You just have to decide what you want to do from here. You are the master of your own domain, Spirit is saying. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want it to feel like? It's up to you. All right? If you feel something trying to suck you in with magnetism, direct your thoughts at that moment to what you want to engage with. Spirit said those tentacles will have to come away from you because you're not giving it attention. You're not giving that magnetism attention. It really does work like that, y'all. So this is how you start to flex, Spirit said correct, that God vision. Don't be scared. It's a wonderful level. But at that level, you have to be able to call things what they are. Some things are just, it's up to somebody else. It's how they want to run their own realm. You know what I'm saying? It's how they want to run their own mind. You don't have to become a part of that. You don't have to have your psyche connect with their psyche. You understand what I'm saying? And have some jacked up astral experiences that manifest as jacked up physical experiences. You don't have to do that. And if you're paying attention to the way energetic magnetics are working, and you're directing your intention, your energy where you want it to go, and you start to make this a practice and a habit, especially when you feel something trying to like vampirize you or what have you, you're going to realize like you really direct your own course, especially when you're dealing with third eye stuff. You direct your own course. There's tons of stuff you can see in the astrals, all kinds of things you can see in the astral. It's not all stuff that you want to see. So if you're dealing with third eye awakenings, it's like, what? Some of the things I got, when I'm around so-and-so, some of the things that happen and, the pictures that enter my mind, then maybe hang out with so-and-so less. Is there someone else that when you're around them, your astral vision goes somewhere else and it's great and wonderful? Maybe you should be there more. All right, y'all? All right, I hope this was helpful to you. I thank you for tuning in. There are longer channels, because I think these all kind of ended up being about 7 minutes or whatever for each star system here. Somewhere around there. But they're like 20, 26 minutes, 19 minutes, you know what I'm saying, over on the other platform for each star system. All right, y'all, I thank you for tuning in. Andromedans. All right, so your spirit channel message is go where you are guided, be undeterred by tricks and traps. Work on your third eye. Be unafraid of what you see. So it's very interesting because Orion's kind of, they do have a different message with it, but that third eye message was coming up with Orion, or a certain third eye message was coming up with Orion's as well. So I find that very interesting. We'll get into that. And thank you, Spirit, for the info. There 70 waves through the clear sky card, and clarity is coming up. So, what I'm getting here, there's a need to kind of, I don't want to say go into escapism, Spirit said, but it's accurate. On a higher level, Spirit is saying. But there's really a need to step away to what you've been trying to hold on to so tightly. All right. This is a Sacred Garden card. And for it to be 70, this is when we are approaching matters from a higher vantage point. So at that point, attachment becomes a different thing. You can begin to see how things work, how the old ways, so to speak, that used to work for you no longer work. And that's okay. Like, in Spirit's confirming, like, that's okay. Spirit's saying it's preferable. So there is letting go that takes place with this process, but to me, it doesn't have to be as dramatic or difficult as it might have seemed in the past, or that it might even seem to some of y'all. But Spirit is saying not very many of y'all, because I think, like, the way the energy wave with this feels, I'm getting a lot of let go. A lot of let go energy. Because like some of y'all really need to recalibrate. And like the only way you're going to be able to do that, maybe not the only, one of the better ways you're going to be able to do that is through, just a moment, higher waves that don't keep reminding you of what you're trying to let go of or stay attached to. You know what I'm saying? Spirit is saying new experiences. And for some of you, it's like you have to do that so you don't fall into an obsession pattern. You know what I'm saying? And Spirit is saying like that obsession pattern was really breaking you down. You know what I'm saying? And it was making you feel like you were less because the old ways weren't working. So that's one of the ways it was breaking you down. Spirit is saying, like, try new things, but don't put expectations on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, Spirit is saying, celebrate the transitory beauty that they have to offer you. And, like, this is going to help you to get more footing at the 7D level. Now, mind you, this is from now until March. You know what I'm saying? Like, until, we get into this Saturn Aquarius energy. So this is really going to be how you overcome those old timeline manifestations. Because, like, some of what you've been trying to hold on to may have shunned you. Because some of you may be really been trying to grip it really hard. And you need to fall back. Not fall back, but you know what I mean by fall back. Like, in some of these cases, may not be all of you tuning in. If it resonates, it resonates. But it's coming through, like, kind of, okay, well, to leave things as they are. For some of you, it's like you don't have to interrupt or feel like you want to force light on something. You know what I'm saying? Spirit's saying you may not understand all of the dynamics involved of why something appears the way that it is, you know? If you were willing to listen, if you had the time and you were willing to listen to why something is the way that it is, then you could probably come to comprehend it. But really what you need to do is let go. Through letting go, you're going to regain kind of your ability to, like, lift yourself again. Like, lift your own frequencies again. Without that being dependent on just your interplay with another party. Whether it's that, whatever mode that you utilize, where it's like, oh, I'm going to go and inject some positive energies into the situation. You have, like Monica on Friends, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody don't need their bathrooms clean how you clean it. Maybe, Monica, you need to, and this is just for those of y'all it resonates with, maybe you need to fall back. You know what I'm saying? And get some clarity on, like, where you're at. You know what I mean? But you have to kind of be gentle with it, because some of you have really been dealing with some obsessive patterns where you kind of turned a blind eye to how it was affecting other people. And like, for some of you, it was like, because you had this knowing, I can make this better, but maybe you weren't given the credit or the respect or the opportunity, because people want to do it their own way, and that's okay for people to do it their own way. You know what I'm saying? It just means that there's another application for your energies, a higher application, for you to be at a 7D level. And in this clear sky energy, there's going to be clarity. That you're here for a reason. You don't need that acknowledgement to come through other people. You know what I'm saying? Spirit is saying it's hard work. But it's a lot easier if you just, like, redirect your attention. You know what I'm saying? To those new things, and kind of allow the universe, so to speak, to show you what you need. And allow it to be transitory or last as long as it's going to last. You know what I'm saying? Like, avoid getting caught up in a control pattern of wanting to control how long it lasts. Any of you who have dealt with, like, abandonment issues and that sort of thing, avoid going into that mode. Celebrate, like, what's wonderful about it in the moment. And then it's like, oh, what's the next experience? And this is going to help you to break any gridlock that you were finding yourself in. And just stay in that more and more. There will be more Starcestry readings coming. I do think they're going to be needed for... there's probably going to definitely be some additional guidance that's required for Andromedans in January. But if you get into a point where you can keep your thoughts focused on what is good that's available to you in any given moment, like, you're going to be just fine, Spirit says. Obsessive patterns are the wrong path, like, of any kind. All right. So this really is just, like, freedom, that clear sky, that air. It's that air element. And, ironically enough, like, if you haven't tuned into the monthly, you can go check that out. This is the card that came up for Earth in the monthly. You know what I'm saying? This is the card that came up for Earth, so your stability is that. And look, it's the one that's coming up at the 144 minute mark. All right, so that's a whole bunch of divine synchronicity following this. All right, so that is pretty much what's coming up for that. If you are looking for a longer transmission, there are longer transmissions that they're not going all the way to spring. If any of them did, I don't remember all of the channels. You know, it'll be stated. I'm not sure at this moment, but really it was focusing on like December and like for some a little bit of January. So you can check the link for the new platform on that. All right, Andromedans, I thank you so much for tuning in, and peace and blessings on your ascension journey. All right, we're going to close out here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're looking for notifications, old subscribers and new, make sure the notification bell is ticked because of YouTube's algorithms, and we will be back. Peace.